All right. So and also I'm gonna start the screen share here. So let me know you can all see them. Is that okay? That you should be seeing the one to make the public art slides now. So quickly moving into the next slides here, what I'm going to cover today is just a little bit about forecast, just like we did an introduction to ourselves. I want to introduce our organizations, and then I will talk a little bit about what is public art. And seems like, you know, we already start having a little bit of sense of what public arts can be, and eligibility, overview, grant writing tips, and any help that's available, I will introduce that. And then today I will probably hop over to online to show you the application portal. So that is really like, oh, this is exactly what you do. And that hopefully that will be helpful. So this is forecast. We were found in 1978, and then we are facilitating always different placemaking and strategy of creation of public arts to enhance the vitality of public life. And our mission is, activates and inspire advocacy for public arts that advance justice, health, and human dignity. Simple, but yet really moving missions to get people's like humanity comes out from public arts. That's what we support. And we believe that public art and artists play a critical roles in shaping vibrant, inclusive, and sustainable communities. So everybody talked about community making and introduction. So I think it's very interesting that how we are believing the same thing. And what we offers, very recently changed our programming to this 5 different pods, like Forecast Forward, Creative Studio, Planning and Engagement, Learning Institute, Change Lab. All of them is enhancing our values of distribution of wealth and opportunity and privileges, and aligning with others, fighting for equity, justice, and human dignity. And in public art, you probably all aware that we all should be working towards the environmental, cultural sustainability. And our earth comes first in our art making, and making sure that we are sustaining what we have been given. So we think about that as a part of the justice that we are working on as organizations and public art producers. And we are always creating the relationship of mutual investments and communities comes and sectors, discipline, and professions. So what that means is that not only you are making art by yourself, our job as a forecast to make sure that you are connected and networked into a different disciplines or industries, or deeper into community members. So you're never alone making arts by yourself. And a lot of public artists have voiced to the forecast that they didn't quite, like they made something, but they did not make any roots or community connections. So we actually want to avoid that. So we don't have a standalone public arts that no one really knows or no one really cared or even consent to. So that relationship building is comes to do. And I think that hopefully our application will give you the sense of how important that is for you to be building that relationship ahead of time, as well as during the art making. And our inclusive practice that invites and honors the full expression of people and places. So I love hearing that some of you are from Winona and in Northfield. It's not for just Twin City. This is for actually forecast do the work internationally and nationally, but for this grant is really about the kind of captivating that all state of Minnesota. So kind of know that we are not just here for Twin City. Our office is in Twin City, but our whole focus is to actually get out to be able to make work and support making work in every single parts of Minnesota and country. And equitable future requires bold imagination. So that is something I don't even need to repeat. I think we all live in that imaginative world. That world can be different, and artist is a very critical part. And, you know, our hope as a public art is to make sure that everybody's ideas comes to reality. And not only the grant money, but we also consult, and we also have a helpline for artists and try to share as much as opportunity as possible that is nations and international wise on our website. Or I'm always here to support and talk to the artists to how do I do even permission? I don't really know how to do the permission. Then we are here to help you to make your work into reality. So don't think that we are only the grantee, like environments here. And any support we can give to the artists to work in the public space, we are here. And this is a lot of text on one screen, but just wanted to really put it out there, our equity commitments in our work here, is that we really, really encourage artists of color to apply to work and apply to this work in the public works, because historically, really BIPOC artists and LGBTQ artists are pushed away from having opportunity in the public art realm. And then us as organizations really wants to change that. So one of the it's not a criteria for you to be a BIPOC or LGBTQ artist or immigrant artists. However, we do really put in our judging criteria to make sure that equity is being mentioned and also being talked about through jury. We have 5 jury, we have orientations with them, and then we do really go by the equity commitments from Forecast Public Art. And I don't really think we need to spend a lot of time talking about public art definition, but public art is publicly accessible original arts that enrich place and box meaning. It considers the history, culture, and location in which it is situated in. And this second sentence is very deeply important for our missions, that we are not here to create public arts that ignores what is before us or what is around us or what is even in future of that location. We take the public space very seriously, and it is our duty to make sure that we are not putting a public art that is not welcomed or ignored history or cultures that's all around. So when you're preparing application, you definitely need to talk about what your research into what is that community is about, or how are you enhancing the history of that land, and acknowledging those matters that goes into the public spaces. So just kind of put that in your mind and think about what is public spaces for you, and as well as the for people around, and then for people that has been before and then in the future. And here's eligibility. Kira, I already said no students, and I think I'd love to talk with you a little bit one-on-one how to maybe bypass that since you're graduating. But you need to be in Minnesota. Everybody is in Minnesota, and then no students, individual artists or teams. It's just to say that we don't fund nonprofit organizations for this work. So you need to be identified as individual artist or artist team. And the work you make needs to be freely accessible. This is work that's publicly accessible, which we define as no tickets or entrance fee. And needs to be a new work. If you already have a work and then it's going to be a second version that is original new work, but you cannot have a work that's already out there that you're gonna take it away and then put it in the new location. That is not going to be funded by this project. And it should be artist initiated. So if you have received a commission and an organization that commissioned you is seeking money, that is not a grant for this. You want to be initiating with the communities that your ideas that goes into the public space. So a little bit of initiation is important, and make sure that that is original work by you, and 1 grant per year. So if you've gotten the research and development grants this year, and next year you're applying for the mid-career program process, that's great, but it's just you receive only 1 a year, and you can only apply 1 a year. And here's a good time for me to introduce who's funding those projects. We have 4 different grants: mid-career project grant, mid-career professional development grant, early career research and development grant, early career project grants. All of them are funded by Jerome and McKnight Foundation. So those are the funders for those particular grants, and they are the one actually putting a little bit of eligibility about no students, or they need to be from Minnesota. So you know that just to full transparency where the money is coming from, and they are private funder. So it's not a state funding, it's not a tax dollar. So that's the other things I want you to know. And I don't think I need to repeat what's on the screen here, but we found 5 10,000 grants for the mid-career project grants. When I say project grant, you already have proposal to the project you want to work on. And you also have a site permit, which I will talk a little bit more about. A mid-career professional development grant is for $5,000. This can be spent to not make a project. You can actually apply to, let's say, you want to take this conference to advance your career. It's a mid-career development grant, so you definitely need to have some kind of granting, like foundations to the public art, and you will be applying to how you can improve your career. What is your next steps for your mid-career? And then some artists have applied to not only researching, but collaborating with the web designer and making a website. That is because mid-career artists have quite a bit more to put themselves out there. And then some of the application granted has been like, they wanted to be internationally known. Right now they are nationally known, but they are ready to internationally known. So they hired a marketing consultant as well as the web designers to put the developments for themselves. But like also can be a research. And early career research and development, this is a little bit smaller. We found 4 of them, and it's really purely research of what you want to do. You might not have a project quite solid yet, but you have some very strong interest. Like, I'm a photographer, never made public art before, but I am very interested in researching the material that lasts sustainably on this earth for 20 years. What is the printing materials for that? That would be a really good research as an early career. Like, I have not made this before, but I want to. I have never made a public art before, but in the future, I want to do it. So like muralist, I've never done it, but I think I want to research the kinds of paints and locations that's most effective, or I want to use this money to do a community survey. It does not result into making public art. That's the very important point, but like, we look for people who's very interested. And the early career project grants a little bit smaller, and we only give out 2. But this is artists need to initiate public art. Might be a first time making a public art. Okay, that early career, you already established artist, but never made a public art. And then this project grant might be a very first time that person is making a public art. So don't eliminate yourself, like, or I'm not even early career. I think everybody is. This is the projects for you to be able to make your vision comes true and make a first art, because it is really hard to get into that field of public arts. And this won't really ask you what is your experience before. It's more about who are you as an artist. And Jerome Foundation defines for us what is the early career by saying emerging artist. And I'm just gonna have you read that. And I don't think I need to really repeat. And the one thing I want to say is, like, a lot of people questions like, what does that really mean? And I think it's best to have a quick one-on-one conversation to figure that one out if you are in the place of, I don't really know what that means. The early clear, I said a little bit earlier, you can definitely be a very first time making a public art, but you are already artists, have an established medium. And then you might feel like mid-clear as a painter, but you might feel early clear as a public artist. But mid-clear public artist is definitely somebody have probably done at least 1 or 2 commission work and having projects or exhibitions that is already been, somebody recognize you as a public artist. It's kind of a good place to think about. It's like, oh yeah, I have made a couple public arts at least, and actually like people know my work, like my work is out there already. So if you have questions, just one-on-one conversation will do a quick wonder than really drilling into what is the definition of that. And earlier I started talking about what is the mid-career project grants. They should be new work that's publicly accessible, and then permanent or temporary. Like I said, I don't make permanent artwork, but I definitely make a lot of public art. So you will define what your projects are, and you are not going to be discriminated between temporary or permanent. Like the permanent artwork is not going to be weighted heavier than the others. So, you know, just know that your idea should be very clear what this intent is. And again, this work needs to be initiated by artists, and it needs to be installed or being danced in the state of Minnesota. So this grant is to enlighten the public spaces in Minnesota. So when you're writing a proposal, you will be very specific about where they are, especially you need to have a site permission. And here are previous works that has happened. This one by Karen Savage Blue, creating a mural painting in the northern Minnesota to talk about indigenous storytelling with animals. Here is by Brian Tower. They made the Imagination project for Laotian, and some installments was in publicly accessible gallery. So this is something to really keep it in your mind. Not all the public art happens outside. Library, publicly accessible space that is also a public art space making. And like this one is at the New Rules in the North Minneapolis. And for him, the audience he wanted to really serve was in this location. And in this gallery is publicly accessible free co-working space. So the gallery was open for publicly, as well as that there are numerous people who use these spaces. So I just like to put this example out there so you know that it's not only outside that where you can make work. And again, the developmental grants is to really advance your careers into the field of public art. And then like the maybe a good example is that one artist who is a really amazing painter, but like she wanted to make the career into the public art, and she had made a couple installments of publicly accessible art piece, but like her vision was like not in painting. She wanted to make her painting into stained glass. So her application was to actually go to Germany to learn very specific stained glass art making technique to get her color that just as a painter. And then like, you know, she was advancing her artist career in that way. And next year, she actually received the Make Clear project grants to install her work into the store window. So, you know, just know that this professional development grant can be at one step before the project grants, and know that how you want to advance your career. And if you're a mid-career artist already, maybe not a mid-career public artist, this might be a kind of interesting things to think about. How can I really advance my career into public art as well? And early career project grants, again, Minnesota-based art making, and the kind of guideline for this is very similar to mid-career. This is by Miri Billiard in a Duluth, did the pavement painting by community, really incredible community process with a lot of elementary school children to think about what is their character of that neighborhood to the pavement painting, and a lot of community engagements through this. This is Kazuo Bing, creating that what it means to caretake, and wrote that Kazuo is a storyteller and a photographer, did documentary of caretaker in the Hmong community, and then her final project was displayed in outside. So her concept was to bring in what's happening inside, not being told, into the public spaces. Very moving. Kazuo have never done the public installments before, but she used her storytelling and photography backgrounds to move it into the public realm. And development grants, again, this is just I shouldn't say just, but this is very focused in research. So what you want to research, what you're interested is what really matters most in this grants. How you are talking about what you want to research and how does that matter, and why is it interesting to you, and how is it advancing the public space by your research, okay? And then now this is kind of ins and outs of application, but I'm gonna stop before here. Do you have any questions about what type of things you can apply? Are we good? Okay, so here is like mechanics of things. There's a two space you can find our application. One is submittable. You might already use this submittable because it actually are incredible websites. You register yourself, so don't forget to register before you apply. But you can actually filter a lot of different grants that's out there. And we Forecast have a forecast page on submittable, which is called forecastpublicart.submittable.com and /submit to get to the submission page. But if you haven't registered, please do. You can actually really get a lot of notification of different grants, and I use that site quite a bit. And then also when you go to the website, you can land on this page to see, click into apply. Okay, and then I'm gonna stop share one quick second here so I can show you the websites portal. Okay, here I come. There you go. I'm gonna screen share one more time. Here is my Chrome tab. So this is our website. And when you click into whatever the grants you are hoping for, it should send you to, you wanna click apply, and it will send you to this page, forecast submittable. Each pages are different, and it gives you a deadline and all those funded period. I didn't talk about it, but your project needs to start next year, January 1 all the way to November. So once you have received the grants, we'll have just one orientation meeting, and rest is you work on your project, and you will have maybe 2 to 3 times check-in point with me. But your project needs to be happening next year. So if you're hoping to find something fun for November, sorry, you have to wait, okay? And those application field is very, very similar to just information intake. And then things I wanted to make sure to go over is the project overview. This is what we use in a lot of publications. So it's a shorter, dense 75 words to describe very simply what your project is about. And project proposal is where you really want to go into the depths, like what are you hoping, and what is your project outcome, what is your timeline, and what community, and what's your connections. And then next to that, benefit to the communities, where you will talk about why this project is located here. Why is it important for this community? And what might be that, how are you going to use your connections to the community to this place? Or maybe talk about community histories or cultures that you want to make sure to move forward, right? So just know that you even have more place to talk about the benefits to and connections to the community in your application. So we really want you to deeply think about that. And here is diversity of lived experience and perspective is the place for you to describe who you are. And it's a little bit of bio. And we are very interested, who are you as an artist? And know that geographical, demographical information, I do not show it to juror. So making sure that you can talk about who you are in here, that juror can really understand why you are the public artist who's making this work make sense, right? So like make that kind of a connections to what you are making, and also knowing that who you are as a kind of it's not a blind, like juror knows your name, but like name can tell so much stories. Maybe people can tell, oh, I think this person is Japanese because Aki Shibata sounds like a Japanese name, but there's so much more for us to know about you, and making sure that you can express that in this locations of diversity of lived experience and perspective. And this is new this year. COVID safety is one of the criteria for you to think ahead. What is the way of making public arts, or if you are having a community engagements through your art making, making sure that you know how to be addressing them. And then here's a guideline from the state. Just read them, and then it can be as simple as I'm only gonna accept 5 people each time, or I will have them write down their names and address just in case outbreak happens, or like this is for people to be safe and healthy, and there's no word limits for that. So it can be 3 sentences to, if you want to write a 3 paragraph for it, whatever that you feel comfortable, but like please think about what is the safety in a public space. And mask requires to, I will have backup mask and hand sanitizer for people to visiting like locations or whatever that is, okay? And early career application, definitely have early career status. This is some of those status conversation come into benefits to the, that diversity of lived experience, but this is the place for you to really talk about what kind of work have you made. So we understand, without, we do look at the resume, but sometimes resume is too two-dimensional for us to understand your status. And this will become a little bit important, especially early career, because grantors are a bit stiff about identifying who's early career, because they really want to give this grants into early career artists. So know that you have to take a moment to describe your status. And this developments and career, this is going back that, project grants is asking, this actually is application for, I just found a mistake, y'all, that this should be asked to the professional developments application, but you want to talk about how you are getting impacted by having this opportunity and making artwork. Turn in your resume, maximum of 2 pages. So choose that little bit lighter one and make sure that you are putting that experience you have had in a public art realm or artwork, like not just only educations and background, and like that we need to understand what kind of artwork you have made. And only the project grant, so the mid-career project and early career project would be asked to have a site permission. And this does not need to be like official letter from city or official letter from the building owner. This can be a screenshot of email that you have been having with like that landlord or park staff or city staff, okay? Because some people cannot give you an official letter till you have a funding. But what we are asking for is, have you been already talking to the people that you're making a artwork? You know, that groundwork needs to happen before before you're receiving a grant. So if you don't have a site permission for the project grants, you're not eligible. So knowing that, like, you know, like now is a very good time. You still have 2 months to prepare, but you need to be talking to the location owners or cities or whatever that belongs to talk about how it's gonna be like, we want to make sure it happens, right? So if you have not even talked to the people, we don't really get to fund you because we don't really know if that can happen or not. And project budget is also only for the project grant. So like professional developments and then research and development grants does not need to turn in the project budget. But I think detail is important. So detail budgets tells jury that you have thought it through. So little research about materials, what you're using, to what is the labor line, are you using fabricator or not? Is there a cost for permission, right? Like sometimes when you run an event, like permit, you need to get permit from city. Doing those research, and then that really shows this work is going to happen. So the budget sheet is very important in the way that you can prove that you have done your background work. And this work is very serious. It's going to happen. And the one thing, please don't forget, artist fee of yourself. If you don't include that, like I'm always like, I don't want to fund this project because artist is not getting paid, right? I'm definitely not going to kick you out, but like, it is very, very important, and the forecast believes that artists needs to get paid. So make sure you scale your project that you can get paid, and like don't forget that piece. And this is 10,000 or 8,000 for the project grant. And as you realize when you research your materials and fabricator, it is not a huge grant for making a large scale work. So if you're proposing and making a large scale, you might express on the budget that you have an in-kind donation of the paints or in-kind donation of such and such, okay? And like, I have seen the juror feeling a little bit uncomfortable granting people when the project is definitely $30,000 scale and you're asking 10,000. So it's very important that you can scale what $10,000 project is like, okay? And work sample up to 10 imagery, and you will be accompanying your art sample with file that describe what they are. And if you are not visual artists, 10 videos and audio samples are all good, but 30 seconds per imagery. So let's say audio sample of 2.5 minutes, and then you can submit 5 images or 5 minutes of video and audio. That equates to 10 imagery. And if you're a writer, 2.5 pages of written work samples equates to 5 imagery. So if you want to, like, you know, I think writing and videos are kind of the same, but like half page per imagery. So if you are a writer and then only have, actually Brian is a writer, so his sample was only a writing and it was a 5 pages, 10 different works, but like it was a 5 pages of writing. So whatever that suits you, just make sure that they are formatted in the way that can be acceptable. Otherwise it doesn't show up in the submittable when the jury is looking at. And same things for the audio and video file. And that's the kind of what you need to turn in to apply to this grant. And then demographic information, this is something for you to choose to answer or not answer. We, as a forecast, like to able to know a little bit about you. So we know that are we able to really bringing our equity commitments forward. But if you're not comfortable answering those, please don't worry, because juror will not see anything below this line, that demographic information, but we like to able to know you through that way. So we can actually shift the funding if we need to. Okay, and so this is a submittable forecast page, just in case you are curious, instead of coming from the website. So you are familiar with the visuals of different portal. Any questions about application? Yeah, Rotem. Could you unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
I have two questions.
Yep.
The first question is about the portfolio. So if someone apply for a public project, but as you said, they might not have a lot of public work that they did in the past. If you can say something about like the, if you can only submit like 5 images, what to choose, or, like how the portfolio impacts, how the jury look at the portfolio, especially if you don't have a lot of public work that was done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first question. And the second question, I'm wondering, I don't know how much you can say about the jury, but I am wondering, who is the jury? How many people are they changing each year, or so, and so on, like.
Yep, that's a great question. For the portfolio, if you are applying to the early clear, of course you do not have like 10 imagery of public art. So jurors are not going to be really looking at your artwork thinking that everything needs to come from the public art realm. And then like even the mid-career folks, like 5 is spent in like a studio work and 5 is public art work. Or sometimes the people spend 2 imagery per public art, right? So like it gives you a little bit more in-depth look to it. And also it's very important how you write about your image sample. So like image sample, this is the studio work done in Sculpture Studio, and it was shown in this gallery. And then like in my proposal, I am proposing to make this type of artwork moving into the public art, so like what is important is actually how you write about description of each work that making a connections to public art. And if you're applying for the Make Clear, you do need to, I do think that if you're going for the project grants, you do need to have a couple example of the public art sample. Otherwise, I don't think juror can be really trust you to make a work that's a mid-clear work in the public realm, right? So I think there's a little bit of like differences between which one are you applying, and just wanted to stress how you write about the description. And in your description, I always find it is very appreciative when you write your, not only describing your work, but connecting a little bit to why you chose this work, right? Like how does this work connects to my proposal, like the project that I want to do. That is also very thoughtful, and jury can understand your vision better that way. And I'm, like your next question is very, very good. So I'm gonna switch the screen share here so you can see the criteria that jury actually goes through. Selection criteria. So there's 5 jurors, and 3 comes from Minnesota. 1 comes from kind of a, 3 comes like as a regional. So like a lot of folks from Twin City area. And then 1 comes from bigger Minnesota, statewide representative. And then 1 comes from nationwide representative. And it changes every year. And I cannot tell you who they are, but they are a great mix of artists. And I don't only bring in the public artist, I sometimes bring the person from the city who look and think about public art very differently. And then I always have kind of a studio artist in mix. So especially for the early career folks, it's important that somebody actually doesn't do a lot of public art so they can see the connections. And I also bring in writers or dancers or theater artists, so people are thinking of public spaces a little bit differently. So it's quite a good mix. And then this is the criteria they are looking at, like quality and clarity of your proposal. So proposal can tell a lot of how deeply you're thinking about your project. If it's clear, we know, oh, this is very doable. But when I say quality, it's not about writing quality. Is it about how much have you thought about it? Right? And then like, is that proposal actually have a quality of bringing in the community members? Or have this person thought about the history, or have this person thought about the culture, or have this person really thought about what you as an artist creating that impact? And then that, not writing quality, I just wanted to say that out there, especially I'm not a English as a first language speaker. I'm always advocate for being a little bit softer about grammars or that type of quality of writing. I think the actually bullet pointed proposal is okay, because as long as you have quality of your thoughts and clarity about how you're going to make this work happen, and the timeline is really thoughtful, that is a quality to me, right? So like, I'm obviously here to help you to make your writing with quality, but just know that it's not so much about asking you to write in like a professional level. And then value of projects to artist development. Forecast is always to bring you up as an artist. So, take your moments to think about how you want to develop yourself as an artist, and why this project gives you a next step. I always love reading that emerging artist saying, this is the first time making a public art, and I really need this because I think my voice matters in the public space. And without this project, experience, no one is hiring me. All the RFQ out there is saying that, how many experience do you have? And then like, how would you get experience, exposure if you don't have opportunity? So I love that kind of initiative by artists, thinking about taking themselves as a seriously good artist. And then like, I need this opportunity to move me forward. And benefits to the community, quality of work sample, diversity of lived experience and perspective, and COVID-19 safety. Those are the criteria jurors are going through. So the 5 of them, and then people might take out different things, but in the orientation, this is what I talk about. And then like some of the stuff I just said, like this is how forecasts value those criteria. It's been explained to them at the orientation. Does that give you a little bit better sense, Rotem? Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I just have, another question as a result of what you said, because I'm not sure I understood exactly about the diversity of lived experience and perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you show us that actually there is a rubric in the application about it. But you said something about not to reveal certain information. I just wasn't sure I understood about that.
Oh, I might have said something opposite, but I
okay, yeah,
reveal
possibly,
everything.
Possibly.
Write about how you want people to know you. And then it's like really important, like lived experience and your diverse background is always hidden.
Okay.
So make the invisible visible. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. But if you actually don't want it to be people to know you are from Israel, like you don't need to say that, it's your choice, but like,
of course.
Actually, like I think I myself coming from Japan and then like saying that my Japanese background and my heritage, that adds into the diverse voices in Minnesota, right? So like I am not embarrassed to ever say that I'm from Japan, but like you choose what you want to say, but that's the places that we actually can see what is your diversity, the backgrounds are. Mm-hmm.
Of course. Thank you, Aki.
Yeah. You all might not need it, but I'm gonna end this presentation with a little bit of lighting tip. And then like, this is, I just want to say that the first point of ask for help, defining, edit, define is a very, like, I think one of the most important parts. And a lot of people actually don't do it. I myself, maybe 10 years ago, didn't do it because I felt a little bit not sure what I should be asking or how I should be the editing, but I am here. I am able to set up 30 minutes consultation with you. I am here on email and phone, and it's always welcome. Even just brainstorming a little bit, welcome. Okay, so talking about your project only brings your clarity of what you want to do. And then like, by just talking, you might make a list of like, oh, I need to do ABC, like, oh, site permission, I should be talking to this one. So like, just really, really know that you can reach me anytime, okay? And obviously, all the application writing material needs to fit together. So your diversity of lived experience, your project proposal, benefits to the community, please click them in, right? And just have a little bit of this and that coming in. Like, it's never a repeat. You want to have a little bit of similar things going in all for big things that we are asking. COVID-19 safety, I don't think there's a lot of cohesions in that. Like, it's just the fact, but like, know that everything needs to click in. So juror can see the bigger picture in that way. And when you propose your project, have a little bit of flexibility, because, you know, beauty of public art is that you're adaptable and flexible because you're making the work in the community. So if you have everything just like so rigid, this must happen feeling, that will choke you later, right? So think of like, what is the specificity that you need, but like, in that specificity, have a little bit of flexibility. Does that make sense? It's a little bit hard to communicate, but you don't want to be too rigid. And make sure, this is a work by Mary Jane Mansfield, created kind of a traffic sign that's only used in this neighborhood to slow down the traffic for children and elders in that community. And, you know, the urgency is a very important parts of your proposal. Like, why this project? Why now? Like, why you? You know, think a lot of that why question, especially with like, you know, COVID is really changing the public spaces right now. And this like, you know, unrest is changing a lot of conversation in the public space, and racial justice and all that, you know, political view. There's a lot of urgency out there in the public space. So really think about why now, why there or here, and why me, right? I live in the Frogtown neighborhood. And then like, I really always promote and bring in as much as work as possible in the Frogtown right now, because the urgency of the Frogtown and conversation and public space to be changing is really important to me, right? And then you want to be able to write like that. What is really important for you and for society, for community, that urgency piece. Always we just like love leading about it. And know that this is a short turnaround project. So urgency, what's happening currently will be really show up, right? Like sometimes public art projects I've been working on is on 3rd year. Still, art is not out there yet. And I was like, geez, 3 years ago, when what I was thinking is like not true anymore. So, you know, like, know that urgency really matters in this type of short turnaround. And again, email me, set up Zoom with me, call me. If text is the way you want to do it, go ahead. My phone number is everywhere in the application, so you can find that. And also like how you sign up on Zoom, you know that. And just like, I'm here to help, okay? And here are a couple of things I can offer: 30 minutes feedback meetings, and information session you're in. And you can send in a draft. I will, if myself was not the best person to get your feedback, you know, jam my directors, like, you know, the Sarah, who's kind of managing the marketing, like we all love to help the writing. So send a draft, and on the websites, we actually have kind of more informations to walk you through. So maybe read them. And I have grant videos that you could, if you're interested, you can watch them. So there are a lot of ways to help you and deeply understand what you are applying for. But like, all those tips, like cohesions and urgency and all that can be really covered by, like, you'll be surprised how much that is to help you talking to somebody for 15-20 minutes, and cohesion might just happen. Oh, like I actually see this and this and this fitting all together. So that is my last things that I can say. And yeah, Cecilia.
I mean, I have still a lot of questions, but they're very specific, so I'm not going to ask them here because they may not be helpful and to the rest. But I did email you.
Great.
So yeah, so I hope that we can get together for that, for those specific questions. But I have a more general question that I think might be useful for the rest, that has to do with what is the take of forecast in terms of considering the virtual space part of the public space?
Yep. We just had that great conversation. It's very meaty, and we are considering online is public space. Facebook Live, Instagram Live, Twitter, public space.
Okay, cool. That's super helpful. Okay, thank you.
Very, very good question. And I just chat my emails and phone number if you need them. But yeah, it's everywhere in the portal. So any other questions? Great. Sorry, I did run longer than I expected. I'm sorry.
This is very helpful. So please, at least on my end, this is really good.
I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear. So I'm gonna stop the recording.